accelerate time. If I'm a startup of any type of business, I'm trying to accelerate time to go from what it takes a lot of people to go from 0 to 10 years to get to 2, 3, 4, 5 million. I'm trying to do that in 5 or 2, right? Because if I can go faster at the beginning, then the compounding effect starts to go up.
All right, guys, I'm here with Tim Brown from Hook Agency, which, as far as I understand, they're pretty much like the Lamborghini when it comes to SEO marketing for roofing, HVAC. And yeah, so I'm excited to dive in. There's a lot of, I feel like SEO is changing. AI is, I feel like, changing the game a little bit on it and the stuff you have to do. So I'm really excited to dive in and learn from you, Tim.
Hmm.
And yeah, so first question, this is almost just more of like something I'm curious about, but you've worked with roofing companies, you've worked with HVAC companies, and I think you said some plumbing.
Yeah, we have some good plumbing clients as well.
Okay, gotcha. So if you were going to start, after all of your years of working with all these different companies and all the, experience you've got with them, right? If you were going to start your own contracting business,
Hmm.
which one would you choose?
Tree service.
Tree service.
Yeah, I think like there's a opportunity for the amount that's very high. It's dangerous. Dangerous shit. It's an oh shit purchase. I like oh shit purchases. We just spent 30K on ours or something like that this last year and a half.
Wow, okay.
It's finding these niches. It can be high profit. You just have it's like part of it, um, a moat, right? It's a very heavy equipment
Hmm.
you have to get. So if I can get the $150,000
Right.
machine,
Yeah.
chuck in the truck, can't necessarily always get that same machine. So, and then it's low sophistication. So coming in with systems and like a really good CRM and like
Yep.
really great marketing. And it's a little bit, yes, there's a little bit less than some of these niches. Like I like plumbing too.
Right.
Um, I like those are probably the top two for me right
Right.
now. But it all changes, right? It's like you see somebody bawling and you're like, damn, it's that shiny
Oh,
object thing that
that
we
niche.
all do as business owners. I
Yep.
my wife will not let me start another business, thank God.
It happens to every niche though. Like you have, I was talking about paving and fencing and, right now they're kind of the low sophistication ones, but, big players are going to go in the industry. They're going to systemize it. They're going to figure it out. And then they're just going to become as competitive as everything else probably. You know what I mean? Another thing
Yeah,
about tree
if you ask
service
my
that
wife, she would say paving.
you would
She
say
would
paving.
she would say asphalt driveways. I recently asked her that question, so.
Oh, cool. Gotcha. Yeah. Another thing about tree service that's kind of up your alley is that it's a very much like search thing. It's a very much SEO
Mm,
thing, right? Nobody like
yeah.
if somebody's tree falls down, they're not going to have much time to like get on Facebook or somewhere else and see an ad for it. They're going to
Mm.
talk to somebody right away. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, I
it's
think
very
that's one of the reasons we benefited a little bit in our niche with roofing. Like we're
yeah.
one of the best, if not the best, Google search marketing for agency for roofing. And I think part of it has been, yeah, these guys didn't build brands. This wasn't a brand heavy thing. Now you look at HVAC in my area, if you go down the highway, the next 6 billboards might be an HVAC company. I wouldn't even be surprised.
Right.
But they know how to build brand, and this has been a low brand. Like there, it's always just the roofs, you know. It's like Joe's Roofing, and it's like
Right. Yeah.
so. I think that as time goes on, that will change. Next 5, 10 years, private equity flushing into certain things. I think private equity is hitting tree service hard too, and a lot of these people.
Yeah.
So they're just behind HVAC and plumbing,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of home services that are right. Those were two of the first that kind of got the full
Yeah. I
update.
think I think they saw how those industries stayed, during COVID, and they're like, oh, this is a good industry to invest in, and then they just started pouring money into it.
Yeah.
Um, so for new contractors, so I'm looking at your website. Um, you know, Most popular package, 10 grand a month for SEO, roughly nine five nine 9,550 a month for SEO.
Mhm.
Um, and I'm just curious, like for new contractors, you know, let's say there's an HVAC technician that, they want to leave their current company, they want to branch out on their own. I'm just curious, like, what do you think the first thing they should be doing for marketing is, right? Assuming they don't have, that budget
Yeah, and
to,
obviously we have lower packages now. We have like 3K ones and stuff like that.
yeah,
However, I still say that generally we're the best fit for people over 2,000 or over 2 million revenue.
okay,
And so like as we get a lot of leads from, I think we just get better about educating our audience that like that's not us. However, we have a bunch of education, just like you're trying to do with
right,
all the content, you're trying to educate.
yeah,
I want people to grow. I want people to get into that growth mode, but in the beginning, it's scrappy.
yeah, it's
You
very scary.
have to be resourceful, and I believe you should do some marketing yourself. Like you should, I believe at this point in the game, unless you want to take 10 years to get to your first million or two, you should get good at marketing yourself, not just do the like referral game and like, no, word of mouth is enough. Like that to me
Right,
is basic and is not like what I'm trying to do is accelerate time. If I'm a startup of any type of business, I'm trying to accelerate time to go from what it takes a lot of people to go from 0 to 10 years to get to 2, 3, 4, 5 million. I'm trying to do that in 5 or 2, right? Because if I can go faster at the beginning, then the compounding effect starts to go up. You know what I mean? Like same with investing, right? Like they say the hardest 100,000 you'll ever invest in your 401k or whatever is going to be, that's the first 100,000. That's the
right, yeah,
hardest. And then it just starts going up. You know what I mean? Because once you start to get that momentum and the power of compounding, the basic idea is just like it takes money to make money. And once you start to get that initial nugget, it can go much faster.
right, yeah,
And scared money don't make money. Like these are all like kind of trite things that people say, but it's true. Like if
right,
you're scared at the beginning, so I'm not telling you not to market your ass off and spend some money as soon as possible. I'm saying spend it on scrappier things
yeah,
and simple things. Like spend it on the neighborhood marketing.
yeah,
Spend it on
or
the
hangers,
boards that go outside your
yeah,
van. Spend it on good van wraps. Spend it on uniforms. Spend it on the print stuff that's like sales that you're putting on the neighbor's door. Like do the scrappy stuff that's super hard and like hand to hand. And then as time goes on, you can, once you have more money than time, you can trade some of that money for more money. Like that's basically like a lot of people get to that point before they talk to us. And so I never really take the truth is now we don't take people that weren't going to make it and make them make it anymore.
right.
We used to like work with a ton of those clients. However, I always felt a
Probably,
little bit like Shark Tank where I'm like, dude, the guy comes up the line, he's like, I have this is the contractor here, let me do it. I have a business. I'm at 500K and I'm really good-hearted and I think we do the best work for the community and I think we do better than the big guy. And the big guys are all ripping off everybody. So I want you to invest in my business, time and effort as an agency into my business. And by the way, 6 months later, he's canceling because he actually was way out on a limb with this trying to spend money on his marketing. That's why you have to push time at the beginning and
yeah,
your marketing, and you have to learn. A lot of people do not want to learn. They pay to go away. They'll hire a marketing agency and they'll try to pay
yeah,
them to pay
yeah,
so that it goes away. And don't talk to me, by the way, every month because I will. I just get frustrated because I don't understand it. Well, I did that with accounting for a long time and it never got better.
yeah. People tend to like try to delegate, or pay, yeah, pay to go away the things that they don't understand, because that, not understanding, that kind of being in the dark, it's not a good feeling, right? I
Yeah.
think it's better to get used to that feeling and just know you're not always going to have the answers and learn as quickly as you can.
Yeah. And
Um,
I hope I don't sound like I'm speaking down. And even if I do, well, hopefully it's useful in some way. But like at the
Yeah,
end,
I
I
didn't get
love
the
those
impression
people.
you were speaking.
I love those, dude. I love early business owners. I know it's hard, dude. I did it too, right? Like,
Yeah,
however, it's all work. We all have to do five things when we first start our business. We have to
right.
learn to
Yeah,
sell, we have to learn to market, we have to learn to deliver, we have to learn so many things, right? It's like
yeah,
it's super annoying, but like there's people try to pay their way out of that discomfort, and
yep,
that's where they get taken advantage of by unscrupulous marketing agencies or well-meaning people that don't understand the limitations of their service.
right. 100%. Yeah, and listen, at the beginning, like if you're sitting around waiting for the phone to call, like, there is so much you can do with that time. Even if you try five different things, and four of them are wrong, all it takes is one thing that works semi well, and you've got your first, you know, few grand that you can spend on marketing. But one thing I'm curious about, so like when it comes to, other than just like doing as much as you can of your own marketing, getting in the game quickly, trading all that time that you have at the beginning, when contractors first start to make a little bit of money and they have money to spend, what do
Yeah.
you think are some of the dumbest things that people typically um, spend it on at the beginning that isn't super helpful?
Well, this is the crazy part because there's so many right answers. There's right answers at different sizes of your business, right?
Right. Yeah.
The right answer to do a really nice polished brand that's a great answer when you have 5 million in revenue.
Yeah.
Terrible answer when you have 300,000 in revenue.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so I get it. It's foundational,
But
but
like, can you break that down a little bit? I mean, I kind of get
yeah,
why, but
no, I think that it's because I've talked to these people, right? And they've got this
right.
like perfect brand, and I'm like, I don't think they should have sold that to you.
Right.
Because the brand, like the brand is, first of all, a logo and a polished look will not fix your shitty business.
Mm, yeah.
And that means you have to fix the shitty business first and then layer that on it. So there's not this disconnect. Because if you come out to me and it's a single owner operator in a nice, crazy nice van, and then they barely get back to me when I need a quote, or there's a bunch of like loose ends, then there'll be a disconnect. It will actually like negatively affect your reputation. Might even get you bad reviews because they looked like they were legit. But so
Mhm.
it's like finding a way to elevate everything at the same time. That's the hard
Mhm.
part, right? Like I also believe you shouldn't pay for a super crazy polished website when you're under 1 million. You know what I mean? Like sure, get one as soon as you can, but like maybe pay for the basic one first, and then you stair stepping everything up. Get your quality higher, then get your marketing higher, then get your quality higher, then get your marketing
Yeah.
higher, right? So, I think that a lot of people are kind of like selling their thing because they believe in their thing. In the marketing world, are
Right.
selling their thing as a panacea to all ills. Just drink this, and you won't have any more marketing woes. And none of
Right.
us do that. None of us can achieve that. Like if the rest of your stuff is bad, my Google marketing will be annoying because your close rate's probably shitty, and you're like, all this works together better. Like, and this is why, there's always the temptation to try to be like an everything agency because they should be doing Facebook ads.
Yeah.
They should be doing Google stuff. They should be doing good truck wraps and van wraps, and they should be doing neighborhood marketing, right? And in
Yeah.
any way, shape, or form, yard signs or like clapboard out by their van or whatever it is, right? So all of it works together. And you and I know that from our own marketing, right? When
Mhm.
we're marketing for ourselves, one thing by itself, if we had really good SEO, when I was trying to get into HVAC marketing from roofing, and we had a lot of resources, but we didn't have a lot of HVAC clients. I put out all these articles about HVAC marketing, HVAC lead guide, HVAC SEO, HVAC. But I was just trying to like drum it up, but it didn't have the proof and the consistency and all the
Right.
other things.
Yeah.
So
For sure.
as time went on, my Facebook profile for HVAC, I went to the events, I spoke at some events, I'm
Yeah.
doing all these other things, and it's all the together that it
Yeah.
created this. Now the leads from HVAC are just going up, right?
Yeah,
because
and
it's this like omnipresent vibe where it's like, how can you create the omnipresent vibe for the like top three zip codes that home services are serving? And I think it's same for us. Like, how can we create the omnipresent vibe for the niche we're serving?
I think a big pitfall that a lot of contractors fall into is like wanting to look like the big guys, as if looking like
Yes.
them is going to,
Yeah.
have customers see them as a better option or something like that. But I
Yeah.
think like the point of like the reason the big guys look the way the big guys look is because they have the money to spend
Yes.
on all that stuff. And they have the money to spend on all that stuff because they've gotten to their business to a certain level of quality, a certain level of systemization. And so I feel like customers naturally expect that, okay, this guy, has a crappy logo. So I'm probably going to get like, owner operator guy. And that's kind of what I'm looking for, and so, you know what I mean? So you're kind of like, if you have a crappy logo, but you still have a small, for lack of a better way to say it, crappy company, like you're kind of advertising correctly. You know what I mean? And crappy
Yeah.
is not the right way to
I
say
think
that,
that,
but
no,
like,
that's true. That's what it should be too. By the way, my wife sometimes for certain services, I shouldn't even say this, but for certain home services, will like hunt for a shitty website because she'll be like, I want the cheap guy. You know what I mean? Like, so that's real.
yeah,
There's homeowners out there like that. So I don't think like, and she wants hyper
I did
local.
that recently
She
with
wants hyper
I
local.
needed someone to look at my washer, and I was specifically looking for a company that didn't have like 300 5-star reviews,
Yeah.
so that because I wanted that like small family business.
Yeah. You wanted it cheaper.
Yeah, exactly. So if you're listening to this and you're a small family business, like there's people looking for your
Yeah.
specific type of business. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So to
and
Tim's
hyper
point,
local because now my wife is like, I don't want the like company that has it in 20 cities. I want the one that's like only White Bear Lake or North
right,
Oaks where we live. Like, so she's looking for like the specific, she wants like that city advertised right away in it.
right.
Versus a lot of people, they try to go so wide. They want
Mm.
to be like the whole metro area. And I think that that's, unless you have to, I think a lot of people think they have to do that and they don't.
Have you seen that like when you're doing SEO for people, like it's better to take your like 10 pieces of content, that you do every month and focus that on like just a few specific towns or wider, like
Yeah,
what's the strategy you guys typically employ with that?
I think that's the ideal is to go much tighter, as tight as you possibly can, and try to hammer particular cities, like particularly if you're in like a city over a million, like if you're in a metro area over a million, then not going for the main one, but going for the perimeter, all the perimeter little
All
cities and
suburbs.
towns in the side of the city that you are, so that you can like you actually have a shot.
Right.
Okay, so you have a shot if you're going to invest quite a bit now. And it depends on the niche, right? So if you're tree service, maybe we would go after Minneapolis, like
Right.
because or whatever. But I'm gonna hit all these cities and towns because I'm much more likely to rank on the first page at the beginning. And it's a whole calculation, right? If you have a super old domain, there's a lot there, right? And I know that people tune out when I go that nerdy, but it is you want to it's a competitive analysis, right?
Yep.
It's a looking at what else is out there, how competitive is it, what could we actually win, and hammering the things that we could actually win. And sometimes that means talking people down from the idea that they're trying to dominate the entire Midwest
Yeah.
or whatever,
Yeah.
right? There's a lot of
100%.
people that
Yeah.
come in, and I love you guys. You come in, you're like, I'm going to take over the three-state area. No, I'll spend unlimited money if I just get 5 million bucks back every time I post. Like it's
Right.
like, yeah, I know, but realistically, what's the smallest possible area that could grow us by $1 million this next year?
Yeah.
Like how could we get that next million? Like thinking in millions, like just 1 million, 1 million at a time. I think a lot of people are thinking in 10 million at a time.
Yeah.
And unless you have the budget for that, I think it's a waste of energy and brain space.
Before we started, you were talking about there's a lot of things with SEO that you're just like obsessing over, constantly trying to do better. And it sounds like you guys are doing quite a lot, just from the brief conversation, quite a lot compared to a lot of SEO agencies out there. So I'm curious, like, if you can like dive into what those things are that you're doing, and like what you guys specifically right now for SEO, what you're seeing is actually moving the needle to get people higher rankings.
Yeah, so we have our own benchmarks internally, and we used to just make those like internal benchmarks. It's like 50% more leads year over year after a year, and it's like 6 months in, 25% increase in traffic, those types of
Mhm.
things that are, and we're hitting them at like a
Yeah.
higher rate than we ever have, even though I sometimes look over it like, Jesus, these AI things, these no-click searches are, um, pretty scary, right? It's scary.
Mhm.
Things are changing. I think what's interesting though is the ad or the lead flow for a lot of people doesn't seem to be going as much down as sometimes like the no-click searches would make you
I'm
think.
not familiar with that term. No
So
click search.
no-click searches is like when somebody Googles something and then they see that AI overview and then they don't click through to anything.
Oh, okay,
I
gotcha.
think part of the reason, like especially for local businesses where like lead volume and some of the more important metrics for Google stuff have not been too negatively affected. Like you would think almost more they would be negatively affected because of all this AI shit. I think it's partly because people are just using the internet a little bit differently. They're still using it to
Yep.
research. Google Maps is huge, right?
Mhm.
And they are finding brands and companies that they want to use.
Yep.
They might not be clicking everything and going the exact route that we thought they were going to go, but leads are still, leads are up for a lot of niches this year over last year. I think last year, election year, was a little scary. It's a pretty significant jump
Yep.
for like HVAC, for instance, this year. There's a little bit of like less fear around, sometimes it's not like who wins an election, just to be like kind of neutral
Yeah.
here. I think it's more about like what like the I don't know what's going to happen, so I'm not
Yeah.
making any decisions. Now we at least know what's going to happen, and some people are happy, some people are mad, but there's like there's clarity about what the
Yeah.
next like year looks like.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
and now there's like the tariffs thing. Anyways, I won't go into like current events, although that would probably make this more interesting if I
Right,
did.
right. Hey, I mean, I'm all ears. I don't care. I
Yeah.
mean,
I
but
think shit, dude. If I was an HVAC company, I'd be using the tariff thing all day, dude. I'd be using it to sell the shit out of some units because I'd be like, who knows what it's gonna turn into
right.
price wise. I'd sell some like pre-tariff promos,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
like
Ah.
'cause right now we've got like another 3 months or whatever where you could still use that because there's an element of there's the shipments are already over. You know what I mean? But there's going to be possibly more tariffs, and you could use a little bit of that scarcity to sell
Yep.
more. I think, and I think you could do it in a classy way. That's just like I've seen car commercials recently. They're like our prices aren't affected by tariffs at the moment, but they might be soon, kind of
Right.
thing.
Yep.
So get a deal before you won't be able to anymore, kind of
Yep.
thing. I think that using whatever's in front of you, like what if it feels negative or something's a little more tough, because I do think prices are going to go up on HVAC units and so forth. But I
Yeah. So
think that,
it's not even really a trick or a gimmick. It's just like, hey,
yeah,
here's what's happening. You know what I mean? So if I use that for my clients, and they say, Peter, you're a genius,
yeah.
I'll say, I'll say thank
Active
you.
hook too, yeah. Hook on Google.
So with these no click searches, you kind of mentioned AI woven into that. How does AI affect that?
Um, well, AI is just getting people further down on certain things because obviously if you're searching on Google and it kind of gives you some answers,
Hmm.
it might stop somebody from researching something like why is my toilet
Uh,
leak?
okay, so
Like clicking the
they're not
blog
going to
post.
as many places
Yeah,
as
they
they
might
normally
not.
would have to.
Yeah, so there might be less clicks. I think it is affecting more of the top of funnel clicks.
Okay.
And that's like, for instance, what HubSpot said when their traffic. I don't know if you saw that recently. HubSpot is kind of, for non-marketing nerds, it's like a hub where they have a ton of marketing articles. They've always done really well at content marketing, and they have a ton of stuff out there. Um, and at a certain point this past year, their traffic went to like 20% of what it was, and they kind of
Really?
came out with a little bit of swagger, and they're like, it doesn't even matter because most of that shit was not making us any money. And really, and I know that they're kind of just trying to do damage control. But on the other hand, looking at the terms that did drop off for them, a lot of it was nonsense. And almost some of it wasn't even related to marketing. They were good at getting a lot of traffic and like glamour metrics. So
Yeah.
when something like that happens, when something drops off, you have to look at how much it's really affecting your money making keywords.
Yeah.
It's just not being so attached to the glamour metrics of traffic and trying to
Yeah.
get more like, what organic leads did we get? And like that number needs to be going up, even if like our clicks are going a little down or something like that. That I think it just getting, and it probably sounds like a cop out, but I have no reason to have a cop out in this particular situation. I think it's just like getting focused on the few metrics that matter and not worrying. And when it's fun and you're winning a lot,
Yeah.
then you can get more into the glamour metrics. But
Have you guys noticed people finding you by using like ChatGPT?
yes, sir. I had Marcus Sheridan, one of my favorite authors, find us by ChatGPT.
Oh,
And
really?
yeah, so are you aware of his
No, not.
framework? They ask you answers. So he runs a pool company, and it was pretty cool, man, to hear his journey basically of how he found us. But he
Yeah.
typed in a long query into ChatGPT, and
And
he found us, and it ended up becoming a client. And he's writing the forward to my book.
nice. Well,
Sweet.
good for you, man. That's
Thank
awesome.
you. Thank you.
But yeah, because I've noticed the same thing. People they'll reach out and I'll ask how they heard about us, and they're like, oh yeah, we looked at ChatGPT for companies that do, leads for HVAC, and I'm just wondering, like, is that kind of gonna be more and more the new norm? Like, I feel like what AI is doing is just more accurately finding the resource that people are actually looking for.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like, I
Yeah.
feel like, sorry, go ahead.
There's still a way to optimize for that, by the way. And by the way, I think you already know because you're making lists on your website with marketing agencies and then positioning yourself as part of it, which is, I think, a strategy everyone should be doing right now and probably at scale, like probably a lot more. And those things already work for SEO, but I think like we're training the AI algorithms to know where we are placed,
Right.
and I
Yeah.
think that's like, it's hard to say it's not easy. It seems like crazy. It seems like, oh wow, we're gonna have to put out so much content to help them to know where all the places that we should be placed. But if you think about it that way, I think your content strategy is probably in the right direction. Like how many lists or places could could we at least get onto ChatGPT more? You know what I mean? Like I think it's not that complicated. And then also other people's lists. How can we get onto other people's lists more often? One of the ways you can get onto other people's lists by making your own lists. So when they Google you, they find you, Google that, they find you while they're writing one, and that's what I've
Yeah.
done. And I think, we've gotten onto House Call Pros list, we've gotten onto Service Titans list just because we were ranking high for that. And so whoever was writing their articles assumed we should be on their list.
Right.
And
Right.
then you can also like ask people to add you to their list.
So, because one of the things I'm wondering is like, I feel like in the past, well, One second. I feel like in the like when SEO was kind of just getting off the ground, like there were so many gimmicks and people would do stupid stuff like they would stuff keywords and then make it a different color, stuff like that. But I feel like as search gets better, as AI gets better, it's going to probably be like the companies that actually have the best content, whatever best content means. You know what I mean? I feel like that's just what um, AI, that's just where the direction is going to go. You know what I mean? Um,
Or also the most.
Most
To
okay.
a certain, the most believable, the most and believable, like that there's some expertise involved in crafting
Mhm.
that content. Like for instance, like when I make those lists, I usually tell them who to put on them. You know what I mean? I'm not like, hey, ChatGPT, just write me an article. I am using AI to write some of that content, but I'm at least inserting my opinion on who should be
Right.
in there. I think that like using AI plus an expert would be the absolute ideal, like an expert that
Mhm.
actually understands that subject. I think that that's hard to do as an agency, and we've tried to figure out ways to approximate that by being a niched agency, by having people that have kind of like studied this stuff and looked into it and are constantly writing similar types of articles for similar
Right.
types of clients. But I think at the very end of the day, like content with an expert, with an opinion,
Yeah.
then using AI to kind of augment the speed to creation is like probably the
Mhm.
absolute ideal there. I think that this level of depth might not be useful to a home service business owner at this, but I will say it is fun to talk about. I think that like home service business owners on average are the most important thing is like how to choose a vendor a little bit, like and how to
Yeah.
choose marketing employees, right? Who, not how.
Yeah, and that
And
was going to
I
be
think the same
one of my
thing. Yeah,
questions for you
yeah.
is like, if you're a if you're a home service company who is looking at, SEO agencies or other types of marketing agencies, like how do you know, like how do you, sniff through the BS and be able to tell like which company is actually going to do a good job for you?
Yeah, I think that the biggest thing is that you want somebody that is niche. You want somebody who you jive with, like you have the right, like similar values, or you think they're
Hmm.
cool, or like you actually appreciate their perspective a little bit. I think that's good to have like rapport with
Interesting. Why
marketing.
is that?
Just so you can communicate back and forth. I think like the whoever you're going to be working with with the agency, just that there's a level of respect between, because it's like having an employee, right? In a certain way, there's an element of like you shouldn't be disrespecting them. You
Right.
should they shouldn't be disrespecting you. They shouldn't be talking down to you, right? Like
Right. Yeah.
there's just a level of communication and trying to like be on each other's level a little bit. Where ideally the client also respects the professionalism of the agency, and that the agency respects the value of the trade. That's the way I look at it. It's like those are two important things from my perspective, so that it's just a very constructive relationship.
In that relationship, how do you think that home service business owners should kind of balance like how much they're doing and how much the agency is doing? Like how much are they giving in their input versus how much are they just letting the agency drive?
Yeah, I think ultimately, I think the ideal scenario is that the client is like the general contractor of marketing, that they own the outcome, that they own the direction, and that they own their voice, and they share that with vendors or employees. I think even an owner to a marketing manager, this applies, right? That at the end of the day, you're responsible. As a
Right.
business owner, we're responsible, and or a leadership team or whatever it is in a larger company, they're responsible. And thus, if they delegate to a bad employee, they're still responsible. That was a failure
Right. Yeah.
on them. If you and I hate that I'm saying it that way, but there are a lot of people that want to blame the agencies over and over and over again. Here's
Yeah.
5 agencies in a row that sucked. And unfortunately, that means your picker is off. And it also means like we got to get better at delegating to an outside company. Just like I would say, if I had 5 terrible experiences with an employee in a row,
Mhm.
I might have something wrong with me.
Right. Yeah.
So as much, and I know that like literally there's a bunch of, if the home service business owners are still watching, that they just cringed really hard and they're probably mad at me. That's okay. I'm being truthful. And my main thing is to be useful, not just to like get your business.
Right. Right. Yeah.
I
Love it.
think that like at a certain point, you have to take responsibility and then how am I going to delegate better next time? And sometimes that is like, all right, no, we're going to get better. We're going to get better. We're going to actually tell them when something's off so we don't have to fire them in 3 to 6 months. And I'd
Right.
rather you tell me and talk through it and like, let's make it better together.
Yeah.
If something's not right. And I think that like, that's just a well-worn getting slapped around a bunch. Like, I would rather have the best client that actually understands this as much as possible than to
Yeah.
try to get every client. So I'm just
Yeah.
being as real as possible because I think at a certain point you have to create a better relationship between you and the employee, the marketing employee, or you and the agency, and how to better equip them to get a result, how to choose better. Like when we're talking about 5 bad employees in a row, I'm going to look at my hiring process. I'm going to do more tests on the way in. I'm going to actually make sure I vet them a little bit more, maybe call the references, you know?
Yeah.
And so that's the same thing with agencies. Is like, are we calling the references? Are we like some of these are easy. Like go look at the Google reviews, you know?
Right.
And I think that like that is, and I'm not being preachy here. I think it's an opportunity for us all to just do a little bit more due diligence if it is that important. And at a certain point, marketing is pretty damn important.
And I think you made an excellent point. Like, don't be afraid to tell your marketing agency when something is wrong. You know what I mean? I have that experience too, where clients want to be polite. They don't want to like hurt our feelings, and they'll kind of like they'll dance around the issue. They dance around the issue until they're 3 months in, 6 months in, and just not getting the results they want. And then it's like, okay, we're they just stop responding. They're like, okay, we're going to cancel, right?
Mhm.
A lot of different marketing efforts, I feel like, just need some collaboration, need some input. So you can say things to your marketing company without. It's not rude to say, "Hey, I'm not getting the results I want to see so far." You know what I mean?
Mhm.
But I think you touched on a really good point. Like that communication is just so important. I think that should be, at a minimum, like whatever marketing vendors you're using, at a minimum, communication should be part of that collaboration with them.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised when I hear that people don't do like regular calls and stuff like that. I think it is a stressful thing, but that doesn't mean withdraw. Like, and by the way, like I walked through our proposal with somebody the other day. I'm like, look at this part. If you don't talk to us for 3 months, we reserve the right to offboard you.
Right.
Because my thing is like, I don't want to go 6 months and then you're like mad and something's wrong. Like, I don't want to have to
Right.
refund you anything for like a long period.
Yeah.
I'd
Yeah.
rather like figure this out. I
Yeah.
don't want any weirdness. I just want less weirdness. I
Yep.
want realness between vendor and client. And that means we're on a similar level. It's a professional level.
Yep.
We try to treat each other with respect and we try to do our best work.
100%. One thing I want to touch on before we wrap up here, I'm wondering,
Sorry
like,
about the noises here.
oh, you're good. Um, I feel like TikTok and YouTube Shorts and Instagram Reels, like, I feel like right now, anyways, it's a pretty good opportunity for contractors. I'm not really in the organic side of social media. We just do paid ads. So I'm just curious,
Yeah.
like, how have you seen that working for people? And do you feel like it's worth contractors to put in the effort in doing that, either themselves or, hiring an agency to do stuff like that?
Hmm. I do it. um, I think it's just like trying to go hyper local with your strat, like as local
Mhm.
as you can go. I think sometimes there's 2 routes people can go with this stuff.
Right.
You can sit there and try to get as many views as possible from the world, and sometimes from the HVAC world or the contractor world, like because you can, because they'll watch it because it's niche.
Right.
Or you could be like, what can we do in this city, in this area that's like interesting to the local people and
Yep.
lore? And like, if you could go lore, You know, if you could go like my city and town and county's lore, it could work a lot better. I think a lot of people get stuck in this other path though. They get
Mm,
stuck in the path of like trying to make stuff that's like HVAC famous or something. Um, I do it. So I have to say what I do a little bit too, which is like I am trying to get my face and my logo in front of as many people as I possibly can. And a lot of that is like reacting to other people's content, making memes with our logo on it. I want them to
right,
see the logo. I would, if I was a home service business, I would be going more local. Like all
right,
the memes would be local. I'd be like doing local influencer chats. I try to be locally famous.
right. Yeah.
So that's basically what my like whole book is about that I'm working on. It's called How to Become a Hometown Hero.
Yep. Yeah. And
And I use, yeah,
I was actually gonna ask you, when is that coming out for everybody?
it's coming out. There's a pre-release July 1. If you go to hookagency.com/hero, you can sign up to get the book for $1 and get the audiobook. All for $1. It's a pre-release, but you have to buy it as a pre-release on Amazon that day because I'm trying to hit the top 10 of a list.
Okay, so it's coming out
So
July 1st, hookagency.com/hero.
yeah, and you can sign up before then, and we'll just email you to remind you to buy the book on Amazon that day.
Okay.
And to get that deal, you gotta buy it July 1. Otherwise, the main release is gonna be August 1, and that's when like the physical product and it'll be out on Audible and stuff like that. So like August 1 for the main release.
Yep.
And yeah, it's really about the softer side of marketing. I think there's tactics are changing all the time and the specifics and stuff like that. And I do like talking about those, but in a book format, it's like how fast that would be outdated. So I
Right.
just went really with like the brain chemical side of marketing and how to create a naturally attractive company and the types of things that you can do to do that with your marketing.
To wrap up here, one thing that I really appreciated in your book was mentioning building real value for the customer, doing something that's actually valuable and pricing accordingly, not just building some kind of, oh, we're building value, we're, perceived, what's the perceived value? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So what do you think an HVAC contractor can do um, to build real value for their customers?
Mm. Customer service and simplicity of communication and not wasting their time. You know,
Mm,
like your best customers are going to care about their time and they don't want to do an hour and a half pitch. I think the ability to like make things easy and simple and feel like a high-end modern experience, that is extremely valuable. And yes, you're right. Some homeowner, the objection is, um, I don't want to do that because it's a lot of time and like, no, we do a high value thing already. We fix AC units and
mm,
HVAC systems. You do, okay? There's no disrespect on that. It's like, how can we charge the best so my people can get more?
right.
And how can I make it super simple and easy? And there's still so many industries that are way beyond HVAC. I mean, like as far as modernization goes,
Yeah.
like the pizza tracker on Domino's, like that. Like can we make this so simple for people that it just feels good, and it goes down easy with financing. You know,
Yep.
everything's easy and simple, and some people have already done that and are doing that, and then the other half of the industry is just losing market share.
Good note to end on, man. Hey, well,
Yeah,
thank you so much for being on. Appreciate it. And yeah, we'll link to your book, link to your stuff. And good stuff, man. Thank you.
awesome. Thank you, sir.